Story 1. Neighbor was stealing water from my supply, so I ruined him. I live in Asia, and just purchased a new house. Now, the previous owners were family friends who needed cash urgently and haven't been living in my country for nearly 3 years. So I got it for a great price in the middle of the capital city. The sale was finalized at the start of this month and I moved in right after. The house was definitely a fixer-upper, as the previous owners had left mid-renovation and the main door was locked with just a padlock, not even a door lock. The house had no gate, meaning anyone could just walk right on in. The first day I moved in, someone's bike was parked in the garage. I just parked it on the road on the same day I had a gate installed. An angry man was knocking on my gate later and I didn't bother answering, but through my window I could see him giving up and taking the bike after 15 minutes. So already, I wasn't digging the neighborhood. But I didn't have any incidents after that, aside from people not knowing that this was no longer an abandoned house, so my gate was blocked more often than never, but a no parking sign on my gate fixed that issue. Last week, I was having a shower in my bathroom and I noticed my water pressure was lower than usual. I also heard my next door neighbor's water pump going. Now this neighbor, an old guy, lived in a 3-storied house, the first being the lowest and the one he lived in. The other 2 floors were rented out to tenants. This guy wasn't happy about the house being sold, and voiced many concerns to my friends, the previous owners. He was super angry about it, and my friends did warn me, but I'm a 6-foot guy with 3 dogs. No way he was doing anything, and yep, he didn't. So with this living situation, a water pump is needed to pump water to the tanks on the roof, since the public supply's pressure is not enough to get it up 3 stories. Now, I heard the water pump going and immediately was suspicious. Sure, coincidences exist, but it wouldn't hurt to check it out. I waited till his pump turned off, and then turned on different taps in the house. Sure enough, the pressure was back to normal. This made me even more suspicious, but if he was stealing water, it also made sense. The water bills had been going up over the years this house wasn't lived in, but the house also had some water leaks. So it was chalked up to that, even if the bills were too high to be caused just by leaks. Now it's starting to make sense. At some point in the last 3 years, this old miser thought he'd save the cost of paying for water, and waltzed into the property and is siphoning water from my lines. I couldn't find where exactly he was siphoning water from, but after checking my pressure multiple times, I was pretty sure. So I sat on it for a few days, thinking if I should confront him, go the legal path, or just let it be. Now, water in my country is very cheap. My total bill, even with washing 3 animals, a car every week and watering my garden, only costs like $5 per month, even with the neighbor also stealing some of it. But it wasn't about how much I was paying or who was paying for it. It's about entitled old people who think that they're deserving of using other people's resources without paying for it, and then getting away with it. It didn't sit right with me, and I really wanted to teach him a lesson. What I did was really simple. I just turned off my water from the mains. I wouldn't have to break into his property, nor would I be breaking any laws. It was the best way of getting back at him without needing to even lift a muscle. So on Monday, just 4 days ago, I waited till the pump flicked on and turned off the supply. Now, the way household tanks work in my country is that there's a ball valve in the tank which detects the level of water and turns on the pump. If the level doesn't increase, the valve stays open, which electronically sends a signal to the pump to stay on until the level gets to a point at which the valve closes and also shuts off the pump. However, the level wasn't increasing, and anyone knows that starving a pump of water isn't a good idea. This way, my expectation was that I'd burn out his pump and cause issues with his tenants. What I didn't account for is that his pump running constantly would mess up the fuses by constantly drawing power overnight and absolutely destroy his wiring. If he decided to upgrade his household wiring to a more modern standard, this would have been prevented. This house clearly still had 90s era wiring. At around 3 a.m., I heard all residents in the house waking up and talking in hushed voices about why just their house in the neighborhood doesn't have power or water. I found out about the power part because the tenants devolved into shouting at their landlord. Our tenant protection laws are very important, and power and water are classed as essential even on a state level. Cutting those services are grounds for lawsuits, unless due to weather or some other unavoidable reason. In this case, the landlord is responsible for keeping the house wiring up to date and in good condition, alongside the supply of water. So the tenants were not happy, and one of them immediately moved out 2 days later when it was informed that water and power will not be returning the very same day this happened. Both tenants in the 2 floors lodged a complaint with the police, and if a person is in clear breach of laws, the police have the authority to fine or penalize the person without a court judgment. It can be challenged in court if the person thinks that they were unfairly penalized, but they still have to pay the fines and will only be refunded if and when the court finds the fines unlawful. So now, the landlord lost both tenants and has to pay a fine of $500, which is a lot of money in our country. He also has to refund the security deposits of both tenants, and cannot rent out until both issues are fixed.
Story 2. AITA for asking my GF if she can take a shower? Not the a-hole PO mode. My GF really only showers once a week, twice if I'm lucky. Typically we go to the gym together, and I've often asked her why she doesn't shower, and she always comes with things like, "Oh, women don't really sweat much, and I sweat very little even for women's standards, and I don't buy it because I can smell." I used to just suck it up, because I know she's extremely sensitive. Kinda NSFW here, but this even affected our sex life. I used to love going down on her, but after not showering after workouts/long work days etc. I've lost interest. Fast forward a bit. She now starts using the sauna at the gym, maybe on average 2 times a week. She still refuses to shower. I've said, "There's just no way you don't sweat in the sauna. Just me sitting 5 minutes in there gets me soaked." She says she doesn't sweat much there either, and she sits there for 20 minutes. Things are now worse. Can smell her very badly, almost to the point where I try not to breathe in too close to her because it's not good. I've tried so long to give hints to get her to shower more, like, "Hey, do you want to take a shower together, winky face?" But she can't take the hint, and says, "Why would we do that? There's only room for one under the water anyway." One evening, she wanted to lie down on the floor and stare at a world map she has. She invited me to lie down next to her and just talk about where we want to go, etc. I lasted for about 1 minute before I had to make up some dumb excuse as to why I had to get up. She then gets upset and says something along the lines of, "Why are you leaving? You never do stuff with me." The truth is just I can't be close to her for long. I'm not even sure if I started to resent her, because it was only this one thing that was bugging me in the relationship. But maybe I did, and that's my fault for being bad at communicating to her. Anyway, I couldn't hold it any longer. I tried one last time to ask if she wanted to take a shower with me, to show I did want to do stuff with her, but she declined. Then I said, "I know you say you don't sweat, but I can smell. I don't like the smell of sweat etc. and it being a popular gym we go to. I would just appreciate if you showered a bit more." She freaked out. WW3 started. She accused me of things and asked if I found her disgusting etc. It almost felt like she wanted me to think she's disgusting for some messed up reason. Like this was an easy way to create distance between us, have less sex and all that. I'm not sure, maybe I'm overthinking it. It's just to me it feels awfully obvious to shower if not daily, at least every other day. She said she doesn't want to shower her hair often, but still you can shower your body. Our relationship is borderline over because I hurt her. So AITA, what could I have done differently? Irrelevant, but is it normal that women shower less than men? I was always under the assumption it was the opposite. Update, February 28th. We broke up. She refused to accept she was disgusting by not showering and did not see anything wrong. Impossible for me to change her mind when she is dead set on no wrongdoing. No point for me to argue with someone like that. Seems like there was a lot of unresolved trauma in her past. I was aware of it but not the severity of it and how it still affected her. One of her first sentences to come out when I confronted her again about it was break up with me then. Like she was challenging me or something. It really made me feel weird. Instead of us coming to an agreement together, she went very defensive and just attacked me. She struggled with having girlfriends as she was scared of them stealing her current boyfriend or something, so she always went to hang out with guys. She loved getting validation from guys as well, so she ended up having a lot of friends with benefits over the years, he said. There's a lot of stuff I did not know, but that's just not my thing. For some reason I almost feel used in a way, because I feel like to her I was just another FWB, but she was someone I actually saw a future with. Ultimately, what made us break up though was the fact that she sees herself as over men, or me in this case. She believes women are holy. Her words, not mine. She was the taker in the relationship and I was the giver. It worked for some time, but I started resenting her and did not want to be as much of a giver for her anymore. I started to notice she did not appreciate my efforts and she did not reciprocate much at all. Hopefully she will find a guy who will put her on the highest pedestal out there, but that guy is not me. All power to her.
Story 3. AITA 4. Kicking a pregnant woman out of her seat. Not the a-hole. Okay, so this happened a few hours ago, and I've only just calmed down, because I hate conflict. Basically, I was doing a long travel day, 5-ish hours, so I booked my train in advance to ensure that I had a reserved seat. When I get on the train, a woman is in my seat, so I politely inform her that I think that's my seat, show her my ticket, and ask her to move. She checks her ticket and just says, well, I must have sit in the wrong seat, and puts her head down. I say that it's my seat, and could I please sit in it? At this point, her partner sitting opposite her starts speaking at me in what I perceive to be an aggressive tone. He suggests I find another seat, which there are none because it's busy, and I say, but I booked that seat, and there are no other available seats in the carriage. He then raises his voice and says, well, someone else is in our seats, and that his missus is pregnant. I say I understand, and that I have a heart defect, which I do, and said everyone has their own medical issues, and reasons standing for long periods of time might be difficult. And here I could be the asshole. I ask him to not speak to me in an aggressive tone, and that I will make a complaint. He then starts swearing at me, and I ask him to stop. Eventually the woman gets up and allows me to sit there, and he continues to berate me, saying he hopes I feel good for myself, and that I'm quiet now I have my seat, when really I just stopped engaging as I felt there was no point. One of the men who was sat beside him offers that him and his partner sit in the seats opposite me. It's a table seat, at which point he sits his partner down and then laughs at me and points in my face. Eventually, when the ticket inspector comes around, they are asked to move to their assigned seats, and she asks if I'm okay, as another passenger had made a complaint on my behalf. Even so, was I the asshole? Should I have just left them alone as she was pregnant? And did I in any way escalate the situation?